Welcome back to Unplugged. It was a great week. Our co-host is being a dickhead in the other screen, but we'll get to that in a minute as I get to the introductions. It was a great week for the club, 150th celebrations, 18-point winners over the Bombers, so great to get a win over them. Some fantastic news this afternoon. Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera re-signing with the club for an extra 2 years. Obviously, the Mason Wood injury was a big talking point from the weekend as well, and it turns out that might not be as bad as expected. So some other good news for the first time in a while. Big Max Heath, Little Jack Paris dominated for Sandy. Jack Bytel, a lazy 35 and 2 on the weekend. But before we get stuck into this week, I just want to say thank you to all the listeners and subscribers for helping to continue to grow this podcast and our audience. Obviously, if you like the show, please jump on iTunes, Facebook, Spotify, wherever you can, and leave us a rating or a review. It really does help, all the algorithms keep things ticking along. We were up in the top 10 of sports and football podcasts in the country last week, which is amazing. And so thank you again. You can follow us on socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all those things. So jump on board and come and discuss footy with us. But we are without Darren Parkin this week, who is off having a baby, hopefully, as I look at the clock.
His wife is.
Well, yes, good point, H. It's 9:40 on Tuesday night, and hopefully Darren's very busy holding hands in the hospital room. So we wish Darren all the best and good luck. And this week, Aaron McGrath, you're in the number 2 seat this week, and we're joined by the somewhat honourable Philip Daladakis again, as requested by himself. Phil, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
I'd be doing better if, with lies like that, you should go into politics.
I have a number of messages from you saying, when am I coming back on the show? When am I coming back on the show? Get me back on the show. H, how are you, mate?
Yeah. Sitting high again. Yeah, just riding this start to the season. But we wanted, 3-3 after 6 weeks? We were hoping. Well, we've got the first 3, so let's
hopefully it's not 3.
Hopefully it's going to be more than 3-3. But that's all we asked for. That's pretty much what we asked for to begin the season, saying we can pull out of the first 6 before we get all our players back, being 3-3. It was a win. We have far exceeded our expectations, everyone else's expectations, and it's just, you're sort of looking and going, we go into most games now sort of going, we're absolutely a chance. Looking forward to Gold Coast this week. They played really good football on the weekend. We sort of look at that and go, yeah, that should be before this game was even, before these 3 games were played, it was sort of look at that game and go, yeah, okay, that's a game we should win. And we look forward over to the Adelaide round, and when we play Collingwood, you sort of think, we're not out of that match either. So the positivity is just building from the 3 wins we've had. It's just going to build and build if we can keep this up. There's going to be losses at some point, but hopefully what we've seen, what we've been able to do so far, the positivity just rolls on from that. And a loss isn't like, it's the end of the world sort of thing. It's just going to be, it'll just be a speed up, hopefully this season, that then we pick up and back up the next week. And that's exactly sort of how it feels at the moment. That, the match on the weekend when Essendon drew level, you're sitting there thinking, what are we going to get here? Are we going to get the Saints we've seen for the first 2 weeks that rebounded when teams pressured? Or are we going to fall back to what we were seeing last year? And yep, the team that we've got now answered. And that is basically, that just shows you what this team has got in them.
It's one of those things. We spoke about it for weeks. The thing that we were all expecting was, again, not kind of translating necessarily to wins straight away, but we wanted to see that accountability. We want to see the work ethic and the mentality of the group. And we've seen that in spades over the first 3 weeks of the season. That steely resolve, even without Jack Steele this week, to kind of come back from being challenged and being challenged hard late in the third quarter and the first 2 goals of the last quarter. They'd been down all day, the Bombers, and got it to level pegging, and we were able to kind of get back on top really quickly, which was really impressive. But Phil, how good is it to beat that mob? I mean, it's nice to be 3 and zip, of course, but how good is it to beat that mob?
Oh, more than you realise. So for those out there that don't know, my wife was an Essendon supporter, but wore an Essendon scarf to the game despite being a St Kilda paid-up member. And so getting the win meant a lot in the Deladakis household, I can tell you. Bragging rights is everything. But on top of that, and I think I've mentioned this before, but as a young tacker at school, in primary school, the Essendon kids at school were merciless. They were shocking. Up and about in the early to mid-'80s, they won so much. And all I remember in primary school was getting absolutely roasted on the schoolyards every single day about how shit St Kilda were and how good Essendon were. So they are the one team. If we could only win one game per season, they are the one team that I am absolutely eternally grateful to beat. Shocking club. And you know what? The only thing that I feel sorry about them for is Joe Watson having his Brownlow taken away from him. I really think he should have it back. Other than that, the club can fold. Get rid of them.
It's pretty hard to disagree with that. But Cal Wilkie has been a really good player for a number of years. Obviously, we all know the story of how he landed at St Kilda, unheralded player for so long. But Cal Wilkie's in all Australian form. He was dominant on the weekend. How do you see his game?
Yeah, same again. Same week in, week out. And you can see why he was selected to be captain on the weekend. The leadership, basically just the standing up and showing how it's done, leading the way. He almost doesn't have to say anything. He just shows how to do it, how it needs to be done, what you put on the line to win a game. And he is just so consistent, and that is the key to it. He does get beaten, and if he does this, if he starts to get beaten, as we saw the other week, he had a little patch where he was getting beaten a little bit. He pretty much dug his feet in and just went, "This isn't happening," and took over the game. And yeah, it's just the sort of thing that you build a team on. And yeah, if you had 2, 3 of him in the back line, you'd never concede a goal. It's just amazing the positions he gets to, the efforts he puts in. So if we don't have Jack, he's the clear next choice to be captain. And I mean, whether he's going to be rounded, probably won't be around longer than sort of what Jack will be himself, but he would be next in line as our choice to take over, you would suspect.
It amazes me about Cal, and we've heard Chris Toche talk about this, how he went to Adelaide to scout for the next kind of upcoming draft and was watching one game and he was like, I couldn't take my eyes off this bloke. He was a bit fat, he was a bit slow, he couldn't run, but he was marking everything. And you can see why. But the thing that gets me about Cal is that he can, like on the weekend, I mean, he was imperious on the weekend. He had 7 intercept marks, 11 intercept disposals. I think he had 17 or 18 touches overall, but he was going at 90 or 91% disposal efficiency as well. He's so clean by foot and by hand. He's so measured and calm and collected. He's exactly what we need down back to kind of keep things ticking along. He can distribute short, long, cross field, down the line. Like, he can do everything. And the fact that it took so long for a club to give him a shot, it's just like, it boggles my mind watching what he's been doing over the last 3 years.
And to where he came from, that's the biggest thing about it all. When you think that he was just plucked from nowhere. He wasn't drafted with big name. Like, he wasn't a big draw card for the draft. He wasn't any of that sort of thing. We've just plucked him from South Australia and said, come have a game with us. Now, and then that's what he's been turned into.
Speaking of turning his career around, Mason Wood. I mean, we've spoken about this guy for the last few weeks on the show, but mainly through the second half of last season as well, as we've kind of turned him into a wingman, as he's kind of proven his aerobic capacity, his running power, distribution around the ground. But Mason Wood's taken another step this year. I mean, it's incredible to see how far this guy's come, Phil.
Yeah, he's been sensational, hasn't he? And, I think everybody on this program has not been surprised by his form this year. He was very good for a lot of last year. And I think we regularly had conversations when you would have me on the program, Nick, that he was excelling. And I think he got a number of the Jason Black Awards from memory. I think this year he's taken up another level. And, he had to, and not because it was on him, but because we've had quite a number of our players out injured, it's been incumbent on a whole lot of the players to step up. And so we've seen that across the board. How amazing is it that after the game, when you try and do your 3-2-1s for votes, that you really struggle to think about who do we give them to? Now, it was clear as day that Mason Wood was best on ground, but any one of probably 6 or 7 players had rights on that second vote, and then the other 5 or 6 players would have had rights on that first vote. And you could probably have made an argument for somebody to have competed with Mason for the 3 votes, right? So, I think that Ross Lyon's done an incredible job of spreading the load in the team. And I think that, that's best exhibited again by the performances of the forwards this week, where you got 4 goals from Butler and Higgins. And you put the sauce on Higgins this week. You put the sauce on Butler last week. And last week, Butler was the star. This week, Higgins was one of the stars. I can't wait to see who you're going to put the sauce on for this week's performance, because I tell you what, I'm going to go and back them in on the TAB, because you are the new Nostradamus.
It's they've answered. I think they've realised, like, they've had poor game, and I think they've realised I can't keep doing that, and that's one thing that they're not going to get away with anymore. And I think they've that whole, if I want to stay in this team now, knowing how many players are still to come back, I need to perform, and that's basically what I called them for, saying, if you want to keep your spot, you know what you need to do. And they're the sort of players that can do it, and we know they can do it. So, I mean, they get their 1-2 goals a week and keep up the forward pressure that they've been displaying. Their positions are there. They're safe in those positions. It's when they drop off that pressure, it's when they make the bad decisions and don't give us that 2 goals a game. If that happens a few times in a row, they're going to be looking possibly at playing down at Sandy or whatever. But they've both delivered on the same night, and we've still got that makeshift forward line, but they became pivotal on the night. So, but just back to Mason Wood a little quickly. I've basically had a quick look. So you talk about the end of last year leading into this year. So since round 18, he's averaged 21 disposals and a goal and a half a game. That is
elite
up there with the best. That is up there with some of the best in the league at the moment. And he's the only player in the league at the moment this year with 20 plus disposals and a goal a game. So he's in his own category at the moment. So it's what he's turned 29 and figured out how to play AFL. It seems he's just something has just clicked, and he's not the player that we drafted anymore. Not even close to the player we drafted. Well, picked up for nothing, as we should remember. He cost us nothing.
Yeah,
and that is the thing that makes it even sweeter. Thinking that we've found again another player that hasn't cost us anything, and they're cemented in our 22.
Well, I mean, it's been so important. I mean, the end of last year, as you've said, he was really good already. But this year, it's been so important that we've had guys like Mason Wood stand up. Now Butler and Higgins stand up with that makeshift forward line, with all the injuries, with all the outs, that you have guys stand up and not just play their role, but go over and above expectation. I guess, you talk about wins above replacement in other sports and a bunch of advanced metrics, and these guys are doing it. You look at what Anthony Caminiti's brought into the team with his not only contest work and kind of lead up work to the ball, but also his second and third efforts at ground level, performing way above expectation. Mateus Filippo, I think we all kind of had fairly high expectations already, but what he's been able to do in a short amount of time is really exciting. And then to see, on the weekend, like you said, Butler and Higgins, it's pretty rare that you get two guys doing that on the same night. I think the last time they kicked 2 goals in the same game was about 3/4 of the way through last season. I think they kicked 2 each against West Coast, but the last time they kicked 3 each in the same game was round 7 of 2021 against Hawthorn. So it happens so rarely. And it was such an important night for the footy club. Someone had to stand up, and we had multiple guys do it. Like you said, Phil, it's hard to give enough votes to enough players, but we're going to have to do that. And I guess while we're on that point, we may as well move to the votes. Obviously, we've changed our voting structure this year, Phil. I don't know if you've been listening or not, if you know how that's been working. I don't know if you can count to 10 or not, but we now do an aggregate kind of accumulation of 10 votes. H, do you want to kick us off for your players?
Yeah, I can wedge Darren's in first because as obviously he's not here. So he gave 1 to Wilkie, Sinclair, Hill, Butler and Ross, 2 to Higgins and 3 to Maso Wood. I've got a similar sort of players. Big apology to Sinclair. I ran out of votes, basically. Players that I got in there, and I'm just looking going, I can't fit the rest of them in. It was 10 to 12 players I could have given this week. But I just had to give a few to other players. So I gave 1 to Crouch, Higgins, Butler and Ross. 2 to Cal Wilkie, as we were speaking about before, just the game he played. And an unprecedented move, I'm giving Mason Wood 4, basically a vote for every quarter, because he played 4 quarters of football, and he deserves a vote for every quarter he played. Even I could still picture that contest where he has injured his shoulder. The winning that contest how he did, and then delivering the ball the way he did, and he's come back afterwards as well. I mean, that's where it kind of set in my mind going 6 to 8 weeks. I don't know if it's that bad. You sort of thought, but he came back, and that's why I was a bit like, I'm a bit more confident it's not going to be that long. And thankfully, it sounds like, as we're saying, he could set up this week, which is just amazing considering what we were first hearing the reports about. So a voted quarter effort I've given him for this week.
Phil, you want to have a crack at votes?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm giving 4 votes to Mason Wood. I think he was extraordinary on the weekend. I'm going to give 3 votes to Brad Crouch. I think he has been massive for us. And on a night when we were missing our captain in the middle, I think he was in everything. And I've watched the replay a couple of times, let's just say that. And I just continue to get impressed. So that's 7 votes. I give 2 votes to Wilkie. Again, thought that early in the game, he was what was driving and propelling us forward out of the Dons' back line in that first quarter. He tailed off a little bit, but by then he'd set it up, and then again helped to marshal the troops as they started to come at us in that last quarter. And then 1 vote, and I'm surprised at myself for giving it because there are literally 5 blokes that could have got it. But I'm actually going to give 1 vote to Gresham. Having watched the game, he was in a lot more than I realised when I was at the game, watching at the G. So sometimes it is good to go back and have a look. And yes, there are questions about some of his disposal at times. But honestly, I was surprised at how much he was in the play, more than I realised. Apologies to Jack Sinclair, apologies to Butler, apologies to Higgins, and also the last person to apologise to, is my man love child at the football club at the moment, and that's Seb Ross. I just think he's just awesome.
He was good. He was good. I've gone pretty similar to both of you. I found it really difficult to kind of separate a lot of these guys. I gave one vote to Brad Hill. I thought even in those second and third quarters when Essendon were kind of working their way on top of us, that he kept propelling us forward, even when there was not a whole lot of structure up forward. It was finding it really difficult to kind of find people to go to, but he kept running, kept working. He's been working incredibly hard these first couple of weeks of the season, and I think that needs to be recognised. I gave one vote to Butler Higgins and Mitch Owens, who again I think is just someone he just continues to impact, and it doesn't necessarily translate onto the stat sheet, but his impact work, his in and under work, his hard at the ball, he tackles, he chases and harangues up forward. I think he's been super for us. And I gave 2 votes each to Jack Sinclair, Cal Wilkie, and Mason Wood, who I thought were equally our best players for very different reasons, but were all very good. Now, before we get to our special guest this week, I wanted to ask you guys your favourite moments from Saints 150. Was it the night? Was it the week, the lead up? What did you enjoy, Phil, from this last week?
I think the club has done an outstanding job at celebrating our history, doing it in a really respectful way to those players that have come, not just the 66 players, but every single player that's pulled on the jumper. I've got to say, though, I was pretty excited to see Plugger on the ground. That almost brought a tear to the eye. And, I don't think kids growing up at the moment actually truly understand how tough it was being a St Kilda supporter in the 80s. And what we had to look forward to was Plugger. And then it was Plugger and Winmar, and then Lowy, and then Berkey and Harvey, right? And then there were players around them, including Brett Bowie and Danny Craven and Peckett, right? So the club has always been about the team, but as a supporter, we've had to follow the individuals because we didn't have success as a club. And so, knowing that how much that Plugger keeps to himself these days, and I respect the fact that he's a very private person, but also to see that footage that St Kilda put out on socials about how involved he was in the game, how much, slapping the players on the back as they came out of the race. That's pretty exciting stuff. And if you don't believe that he's actually involved emotionally with the club, then you haven't been watching the footage.
H, what about you?
Yeah, they've just managed to do the whole week really well, it seemed. There was a lot there without overdoing it, without making it feel like basically drowning us with stuff. There was enough there for everyone to take in, enough there to see. The night itself wasn't overdone like you can see some things do. Sometimes it could just be too much, and you just go, "Oh, this is just a bit over the top." But they kept it, I guess, reasonably simple, and celebrated probably, as they are saying, that what is most important to the club itself. So, it's huge kudos to the club for just not going crazy, not going, I guess, you could almost say Americanizing it. You see the way they do things over there at times. It could be, you sit there and go, this is just too overwhelming. And saying everyone they've got involved, everyone that got there, it's a huge hats off to all those people involved.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think obviously seeing Plugger there was, it's just sent a little shiver down the spine. When you saw that photo, I think it was the Saints tweeted, must have been about 6 o'clock or whatever it was pre-game, Plugger's here, or something to that effect, in the rooms chatting with Jack Steele. And I mean, just you can't help but smile at that sort of thing, because he does mean so much to so many of us. But I think you're right that the way that they did it as a club was so Phil used the word respectful, and I think that's a really good way of putting it, in that it was really respectful of everyone who had come before, of their experiences, and understanding and knowing that only very few of those guys that were there on Saturday night had reached the ultimate success and held that cup. But each of those have their own story and their own journey and their own part to play in the history and the fabric of the football club. And I thought that was on full display. I know it's gotten a lot of flack, I think, over the last couple of days on socials, but I thought that the little musical act with the song with Dan Sultan, Alex Leahy, and Ella Hooper was actually really nice. Again, it was kind of understated. Yeah, they didn't overplay, they didn't oversing. I thought the little New Orleans trumpet part was really cool. And you're hearing the song out on the G with all those people, Plugger and Spud's family and Halves and Milne and all those guys, was just super, super special, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Any final thoughts on the Bombers game before we move on?
Yeah, I think that the team has shown a level of maturity. Again, what we're talking about, you guys talked about it the other week, system. Clearly, the system is working for the team that we've got. I'm sure that there'll be some tinkering with the system as different players come back. For example, with Max King in there, it would have to look slightly different as we come into the forward line as well. But that level of unpredictability at the moment, I think, is playing well for the team that we've got out on the field. And also, I think, H, you said it before, but the way that the team responded in the last quarter, we were 19 points ahead. They effectively had the first 4 scores of the quarter to get even. And at that point, I think all of us said, we've seen this film before, we know how it's going to end. But the guys turned it on. 5 goals in literally, I think it was 5 or 6 minutes. And then, of course, the Dons finished out with the last 2 goals of the game in junk time. But I was super impressed by that level of resilience and that maturity in the players. And it is the young players that have done it, right? It's the Owens and the Windhagers and Ronnie Burns, who I still have a query about his disposal, but nevertheless, you can't question his tenacity and his fight and his will, and the fact that he gets the ball in and of itself is amazing. Caminetti has just impressed everybody, and what an amazing player he will be with a couple of seasons under his belt, a couple of pre-seasons as well. I just think there's so much to be really excited by, and I know that Ross always says it doesn't really matter where we end up, it's the process. And on that score, I think as supporters, I think we're the same. Maximum effort gives us maximum opportunity. If we walk away with maximum points, it's even better. But irrespective of that, as a fan, we walk away knowing that the team's done everything that they can. And you know, I'd love us to play finals, but I'm not hung up on playing finals. I'm hung up about the players getting better and showing the desire which they are.
We've been lucky enough to talk to a lot of former Saints stars on this show. We've spoken to a lot of celebrity fans. Our guest this week is Australian TV royalty, Rhys Muldoon.
Hi, Australia. So we've been thinking maybe we could collectively come together to come up with some better names for our long list of great places. There's a nice ocean road. What should we call it? I know. The Great Ocean Road. How about that dividing range? Also great. The Great Australian Bight! Yeah, it's great. Great Depression. Not so great.
You might know him as Sarge from Lockie Leonard. You might know him as Frank Goodman from The Secret Life of Us. You might know him as Mark Oliver from House Husbands. He's appeared in the Oscar-nominated film The Saviour and a host of other Australian classics, including a recent turn as Terence Hodson in the Gangland documentary series Informer 3838. Our guest this week is Rhys Muldoon. Rhys, thanks for jumping on board this week.
Good to be here, Nick. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody.
Mate, wanted to ask you how you became a Saints fan first and foremost.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Canberra, which is sort of a multi-code town. So it was rugby league, AFL, it was sort of the lot. But I didn't really get into AFL until I moved to Melbourne at the end of 1986. And I was living at the Gatwick Hotel in St Kilda on Fitzroy Street.
The famous or infamous Gatwick Hotel.
It was, yeah. Maybe not as infamous as it became. So, like, when I moved in there, it was still sort of like just a cheap rental hotel, and you could kind of you could haggle for the price for the week and stuff like that. And it was more kind of like merchant seamen and weirdo kind of people, not just straight out ice addicts. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of not as harsh as it became later. And then obviously got taken over by the block and ruined and turned into kind of, I don't even know who lives there. Like, I mean, you walk past it, you never see anybody exit or enter. So it's, I don't know, it's something weird going on at that place. But so, yeah, anyway, so I was living in St Kilda and they just became my team straight away. And then I started going to Moorabbin and this was in the glory days of Plugger, obviously. And, Stewie Lowe and Nicky Winmar and the whole gang. And that's how I very first started barracking for the Saints, because I was living in St Kilda. Yeah.
So you've joined the team at the bottom probably part of our history. What was it that kept you there? Did you sort of think, yeah, I'll see this out, or it's a bit of a sucker for punishment, or what was it that kept you there?
It didn't feel like the bottom at all to me. I mean, I know, like, as far as the ladder goes, but we had Plugger. I mean, we had Winmar, we had Stewie Lowe, we had, Brett Bowie. I remember, like, and Moorabbin was such a kind of, such a great ground to go to, like a great suburban ground. And it was so, I remember with Plugger, sorry, I just hit my own microphone. With Plugger particularly, we used to go like end to end each quarter just to go and watch him. Because I presume you've all seen Plugger regularly, but I just remember that he only used to run about 5 meters a game. Like, he'd just sort of go, someone would kick it to him, he'd run 5 meters, then kick a goal, and that was the length of his thing. He never went up the ground. It was very old school full forward, and he was such a sort of behemoth. And you were still seeing great football, even though we weren't having so much. What you would call sort of massive success, but it was a great place to be. I loved every bit of it. Like, the winning didn't matter that much. It was just like, I don't know, it's something about Saints fans then and since, but more so then, it was just like, victory wasn't everything. It was more about catching up with mates, fellow Saints supporters, having a laugh. It was that great thing of, like, the most important thing in the world and also really funny at the same time. Like, it was just a completely different way of looking at sport, I think. It was just fantastic. Loved every bit of it. I remember when Tony Lockett had his very first book signing at Ackland Street when he was still quite young and a Saint, and people were turning up, Saint supporters were turning up, getting him to sign toilets, babies, pot plants, just the weirdest shit. It was very, very funny.
Now, speaking of weird shit, you've been living in Sydney for how long now?
Me? No, I'm living in Tasmania.
Oh,
I'm actually right now. I'm in Tasmania. Yeah, I was in Melbourne until last December, and I've just moved down here.
Well, I've got different questions for you straight away. Then off the bat,
yes,
the
please.
St Kilda experiment in Tasmania. In hindsight, is it something that we should have continued?
I don't think so. I think. Of course, great. Like, Saints have a great history with Tasmanians becoming Saints, like Ian Stewart, Darryl Baldock, etc. But I truly, I think Tasmania should have had a club long before bloody Gold Coast Suns ever got one. I just think that's a disgrace that they got a team. Like, why does the bloody Gold Coast need a team?
So
that's just beyond me.
So I don't want this to be controversial, because of course it is about St Kilda. But when Tasmania gets a team, and I, for one, hope that they do, I think it would be great for football. Do you become a supporter of the Tasmanian team? Do you become a dual supporter of that team in St Kilda? Or do you drop St Kilda like a hot potato and hope that we don't win a premiership the following year?
Oh, Philip, what kind of question is that? It's like going, have you been unfaithful with your wife yet? It's an appalling question. Of course I keep being a saint, but I'll sleep around a little bit with Tasmania on the side.
Well, look,
my heart's big enough. My main team will always be the Saints.
Questions. You got to get used to the appalling questions from this guy.
Yeah. Well,
get ready for some appalling answers.
Well, what you've got to remember, Rhys, is that Darren Parkin is on leave, and so the A team is back in. And
gotcha.
And so the questions, the nature of the questions, the quality of the questions has just stepped up a level.
Well,
okay, gotcha. I'm ready. I'll get something to wipe the sweat off my brow. So, I'm sure you've had, Philip, have you had like a local team, like say a VFL team that you had connections with? Have you had any other team that you've had connections with other than St Kilda?
Yeah, so, the answer is yes.
There we go. Right? Okay, just let's move on. No, I'm kidding.
But it was more like going out with my cousin, not going out with another woman. So let's just...
Okay, I'm not sure what suburb you're living in. It's like... Tassie has that reputation, but maybe I'm not sure.
Hey, I've got another question for you. Tell me, Rhys.
Yep.
Melbourne Comedy Festival's on now. Are we going to see you come back and do a show? Because I for one would love to.
I was just actually contemplating that because I only just got back from Melbourne yesterday, and I was down at the town hall, and because I remember I won it was this great year where they had a best sort of actor or best something prize. And I won it, shared it with another guy, and we both got to go around the world. Like it was a Qantas prize. You got to fly around the world and all this and given all this cash, right? And it was just that was such a great prize. So, I mean, not just for those reasons, but I'd love to do another show at the Comedy Festival. It was very fond memories. And especially just hanging around with comedians in the bar afterwards too,
Comedians are fun to hang around with. But, while we're on the topic of shows and that sort of thing, have you ever tried to wedge your Saints fandom into a role, into a show, into a character?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I have. I've done it. Like with Secret Life of Us, I had to hustle so hard. It didn't work out, though. But I was trying to get Raph Clark into an episode, right? And I had to go and speak to Grant Thomas. I had to go and I knew Raph and Xavier a little bit, and I was trying to get them into the show because they had a footballer written into the show, right? And I'd got the script, and I said it has to be a Saint. I reckon I can get Xavier Clark and all that. And so I went down to the club, and I'm begging Grant Thomas, and he's like, and they're all teasing Xavier and Raph, going like, "Oh, you're taking a stroll on Media Street, are you?" and all this kind of stuff, and it never happened, which was a real bummer. And then I think we got an actor in to play a Saints supporter, but I'm pretty sure we got the Saints colours in. And there was also a well-known props guy in Melbourne working then on a lot of TV shows, and he would always get something St Kilda into every show he worked on. There'd be something in the background, whether it's a scarf or a little bobblehead of Plugger or, just something St Kilda. He was notorious.
Like Eric Banner in Funny People.
Yeah, that's it. Can't help himself. You got it. Yeah. I remember I did another film. I did a film called Valentine's Day, which was all about football, all about country footy. And I really tried so hard to get our team to be Saints colours, but they ended up being Hawthorn colours, which was heartbreaking. I mean, it was a great film, but Hawthorn colours, the piss and the shit, you know what I mean? Like anything but that.
Similar vein. Similar vein. It's where we've had, say, comedians or actors or whoever coming over from overseas or someone you've collaborated with. Have you tried to introduce them to the game, tried to push them towards us? Have you just tried to brainwash anyone at any stage?
Well, one of the funniest ones was literally on Saturday night. I took my father to his very first game of football ever, and he's 84. So that, he now lives in St Kilda. He's just moved there, so I'm pretty sure we got him. Not sure how much longer he'll be sticking around, but 84, his first football game. Didn't take me to a game when I was young. What kind of fathering is that? That's a terrible father.
Well, didn't want to submit you to the torture of the St Kilda Football Club.
Yeah, possibly not. But now he's in. So he saw us. I mean, what a great game! How many of you were at the game? Anybody there?
All of us, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, we're there. Yep.
All of us were there. What a special night that was. Gee, it was good. It was just, I was so impressed. I mean, I've been so impressed with, Rossline 2.0. I can't even begin, like I thought the first game we were up against the Dockers, I thought we were going to lose that for sure. Like I just did. And I think I probably just believed the hype of, Dockers are top 4 and, we're going to be rooted, and we didn't have any of our players, and we've just won every game. Like it's so classic Saints to win games that we shouldn't win, and we'll probably lose to bloody Gold Coast next week and then smash the Pies the week after. What's the bet?
I'd take that.
Probably about $1.03.
Yeah.
I reckon you're at $1.03.
$1.03, yeah.
I think if you're offered, if you'd
my
rather
God.
beat Collingwood or Gold Coast, the people would probably take Collingwood.
Oh, I'd take Collingwood, absolutely, every day of the week. I mean, look, like Gold Coast disgust me, but beating Collingwood's always... Because, I mean, how many of you were at the 2010 grand final? Because I went to both of those. Yeah. That's still I think one of the, if not the worst day in my life. That's that replayed grand final. Because that Geelong one we lost, I could cry about that openly and weep like a child. But the replayed grand final, I still just feel nothing but hollow. I think it's just a tumour growing inside me. It's about the size of a football, and it's just sort of hair and toenails, and it's growing. Because that couldn't even cry about it. It was just so disgusting and painful and horrible and nothing. It was just nothing. It was, that's the worst memory. Maybe we should not talk about that.
Speaking of memories, as you were growing up, which was the team that you hated the most?
North Melbourne. And I'm not sure why. I think it was because they were successful and they were sort of, and I used to think Ron Barassi was a total dick when I'd see him when I was a little kid, because he's always screaming at the players and stuff. And I'd just go like, what's with him? I just thought, I don't know, there was just something about North Melbourne that I really loathed. I don't have any issue with North Melbourne at all anymore. Now Carlton's my most hated club by far.
That's because North are irrelevant now. So.
Yeah, probably. But also, because Carlton, I've just always hated them, and West Coast. They're my two hated teams. They just shit me. I really have a problem with them. But particularly Carlton, because you remember when the Saints, when we nearly went up against the wall and we could have folded, and the only club to say, let them fold, was Carlton. And I'm never going to forget it. I'm never going to forgive.
So also growing up, what number was on your back?
What number was on well, I didn't really have it because I wasn't really into it when I was a kid. So I didn't have a number on my back.
You didn't have a jumper as a kid growing up just to put on?
Nah.
Oh, mate, we'll have to send you one.
Oh, no, I've got jumpers. I've got jumpers now, but I didn't have them then.
And who's on your jumper now then?
Stewie Lowe.
Yeah, what a great number. So his kid plays in a similar basketball comp to mine, and a couple of times through the season, our paths have crossed, and I look like one of those starstruck kids, and I go, it's Stewie,
Stewie Lowe,
it's Stewie Lowe. And my wife at that point kind of moves me forward and says, "You're embarrassing your son." And I'm like, but that's not the first time.
Yeah. No, I've done it to Stewie a couple of times myself. Like, I remember the first time I met him outside of footy was at the SCG, was at the cricket one time. And I'm just like, oh, my God, you're Stuart Lowe. And he went, I must have been on something on telly at the time. He goes, you're Rhys Muldoon. I went, no, but you're Stuart Lowe. Like, he was so humble. I just couldn't believe it because he's like buckets, he's just a god to me.
To all of us. Now I've got another couple of questions, not work related, I used to do this thing at one of my old works where I used to do 60 seconds where I'd ask a whole lot of questions, and because I'm a guest host this week, I'm just going to ask you a few questions, and I just want whatever comes into your mind.
Okay.
Beer or wine?
Beer.
Thailand or Bali?
Bali.
Pizza or Thai food?
Thai food.
Mainland?
I don't know. That's a hard one. Anyway, go on.
Mainland, where every government's Labor, or Tasmania, where the government's Liberal?
Mainland.
All right, I'll pass over to the boys.
Come on.
Well, you're living in Tasmania, so I thought that was a trick question for you. But
no, it's not a trick question because, I mean, like, come on, it's the promised land. When the whole place is Labor, I'm happy. Come on.
We just need a St Kilda
I mean,
premiership.
but also, yeah, I know. But also, like, politics down here is just completely different. Like, as in, Labor are pretty shitty down here. And the Liberals, like, as in Bridget Archer, who's the only decent Liberal I think I've ever met, she's kind of okay. So it's just topsy-turvy land down here. It's a little bit different. So Labor actually have to really get their shit together down here because they're not too good. But I'm not saying the Liberals are good, but I'm just saying Labor need to sort of lift their game a bit.
Why don't you run?
Just between us. I'm not. I know that's what Doug Cameron, because Doug Cameron lives down here now. He keeps asking me, like, do you want to run or do you want to help me organise? I said, I'll help you organise, but I'm not going to run.
Let's get back to the real. Let's get back to the real stuff. The stuff that actually matters. The stuff that runs the country, and that's
Yes.
the football. But Rhys, I'm told. So one question from our co-host who's not here, Darren Parkin, tonight, told us to ask you about a potential story about trying to turn Anthony Mundine, the former NRL star turned boxer, into a St Kilda supporter. Is there something to this story?
There is some truth to that. That's because we first met. We were doing how I first met him was we were doing the Celebrity Grand Prix back when they used to like let celebrities drive cars before the Grand Prix and crash them and stuff, which was just like the best fun ever because you got to train for about 2 weeks at Sandown and race cars and and it was just the greatest. And that's how I first met Anthony Mundine. And we just got on great from then on. And so, but while we were in Melbourne, I just kept pushing him to, come on, be a saint, because he just didn't have a team. He was rugby league through and through. And, I pushed him. I think I'd got him to a game, but and I think I even got him into a jumper and a scarf and I got some photos, but he didn't kind of get to follow through with it. But I'm sure people would have mixed feelings about that one because like how Choc loves to put his foot in it with saying stuff like completely mental, But he's the loveliest guy. Like it's a funny one with him because anybody who's met him or knows him, he's just such a lovely bloke. And then he'll say something on the news, and I'll go, "Oh, Choc, don't," like it absolutely kills you, But it's one of those things, what's that great saying in Train Spotting? He's a mate. What are you going to do?
Now I've got one more non-football related question, much to the chagrin of the host with the most, Mr. Splitter. Tell me, obviously, the world of stand-up at the moment has some amazing acts at the moment, and I'm just wondering, when you're not performing, if you're not acting, do you follow what's going on? Are there people that you love to go and see? How do you spend your downtime?
So hang on, is that that's a sort of a two-part question, is it? Are you saying am I following comedy closely?
Well, everything.
Who
do you like in the comedy caper, but also what are you doing in your downtime? How do you relax when you're getting away from working as an actor as well?
Oh, right. Okay. So, well, obviously going to the football's part of that. And obviously Tasmania, which is quite new to me. So discovering a bit of that, I've never really been what you would call much of a bushwalker, but I've done a bit of bushwalking, which is kind of like a little bit unusual for me. Going to sort of distant wild places and looking at lots of bush there's lots of beaches around. So I've been doing a bit of that. As far as comedy goes, I like to see people that I haven't seen before. Generally, mainly I like to see new acts, and I like to see I particularly like kind of cerebral English comedians for some reason. Like I like weirdos, and I like sort of storytelling. I'm not that big on the kind of bang 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 joke kind of comedians. I like more sort of odd bods. I don't know how else to put it, but yeah, I love Ross Noble. Yeah, but but also Ross Noble I've known for, or, not known, but seen him so much, I want to sort of see who else is around. Do you know what I mean? Because I always like finding out who's new, with comedy, because it's such an interesting caper and it's always kind of changing, and Melbourne and Sydney comedy has always been so different, Melbourne comedy, because when I was at acting school, I used to work at the Last Laugh, which was a comedy venue in Collingwood. And that's where so many of, our big comedians all sort of started, pretty much everybody you can name that, went on to do sort of big comedy careers, were at the Last Laugh at some point. And then I started doing a bit of stand up, at different, because there were so many stand up venues around Melbourne back then, and comedy was just such a sort of a huge part of life. And then, but yeah, when Sydney comedians would come down, they do the humor was just so different and sort of rougher and more kind of like more like your Rodney Rood or your a kind of more an RSL kind of crowd type humor. You know what I mean? Like and Melbourne was a bit more right on politically, which sometimes made it maybe a little bit safe, but then also Sydney comedy could be a little bit crass too. So it was always fun to see the kind of difference between the two, That probably doesn't sound particularly interesting or funny, but it was kind of interesting at the time.
Now, the question that we're giving to everyone that we get on here this year is, with the 150th anniversary we've just celebrated, what is, say, one moment or one thing about the club or I mean, even one person or something that basically says to you, the St Kilda Football Club? What is it that basically what does it mean to you?
Well, a big part of that would have to be so many of the supporters and particularly guys like Russell Holmesby. I don't know if you know Russell, who's like kind of the club historian.
Yeah. We've had Russell on the show.
There's so many. Oh, have you? He's fantastic too. And his son,
bloke.
Luke, Yep. Both great guys. So meeting them because because I used to write for Inside Football. I don't know if you remember that paper.
Yep.
If you ever saw that, but so I used to write for that, and then that's and met Russell and Luke and the whole family sort of through that. And then Warney, obviously, who was a great Saints supporter, and Molly, and you just sort of see all these people at games all the time. But then there was something particular about Moorabbin that I just loved so much, which was the access that you had to the players. Because you'd bump into them. Like even though you like sort of you'd look up to them and kind of like wow, they're all superstars and everything, but they'd be kind of right near you and you'd see them getting in their kind of cars and driving home, and it was sort of that pre, big money kind of stuff. So they were getting into Commodores rather than Ferraris. You know what I mean? That was that sort of vibe, and there was something about the whole, the suburban football ground thing that I really, really loved. Although I love going to the MCG, and I love Docklands as well. But something about St Kilda's ability to create incredibly brave players who keep fronting up no matter what's going on with the club. I mean, I think the club, like the club itself, or maybe some different administrations have let down the club, over the years and not treated the players maybe as well as they should have, which is, I mean, I don't want to sort of point the finger at any because I don't really know many of them, but, you're just not going to find a more loyal club than St Kilda. It's just literally impossible. I don't think there's any other club on earth that has more loyal supporters than St Kilda. And there's just something to be said for that. There's just something to be said about, that we kind of, our club can embrace pain, like a Hawthorn or that, they can't handle it. Like they just can't handle losing, like it just destroys them and they start, weeping like children. And we just take that, just add it to the scar tissue. You know what I mean? Our hearts are made of the stuff. And it's, there's something about that. You still go and you don't know what's going to happen. Remember when we had that? Remember when our actual motto was "Expect the unexpected"? One year it was that, and I think that might have been the year. Was it when Malcolm Blight? It might have been that year when he only lasted a few months and then buggered off. It was around there, or was it? What's his name from Essendon?
Tim Watson,
who coached for not very long. Tim Watson. Maybe it was that year. But it was like expect the unexpected was our actual thing on our membership, and then the coach gets sacked about a month after that came out, which I just thought was absolute classic St Kilda. And what are your thoughts? Can I ask you all something? What are your thoughts? I don't know how much you've discussed it in the past, but what are your thoughts with Rossi Lyon coming back?
I think he's probably got the group together as a whole. It seems now. I think the group might have been lost previously to Ratton, and we sack Ratton, and I think we look around and he's probably was the best available coach out there. He's had time away to look at the game from the outside, and he's been able to basically watch and see how the game's been played, and he's coming in with some really good ideas, it seems.
No, I was just going to say, just seeing that effort that we saw on Saturday night, like just all around the ground, right? I was on level 1 and just seeing it close up, just the effort by every single player was just extraordinary. That kind of going from defence to attack and just running and tackling, like it was just such a great brand of footy.
It's a real interesting one, the whole Ross situation, because I think he's a pretty divisive figure, especially over the last decade, since he left the club. But I think it doesn't necessarily translate into wins, at least not straight away. But I think what we all kind of agreed on was that what he's going to bring back to the footy club is a sense of identity, a sense of purpose, some accountability, some responsibility, some discipline, all that type of stuff that it felt like we'd been lacking for a while. And it's just really exciting to see it happen so quickly. And I think, like we said, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to continue. It doesn't mean that we're going to win every week, but it's nice to see that there is a sense of structure and game plan and strategy, and every player seems to know their role and be able to turn that on and do what they're meant to do, which is really nice to see.
I just think it's worth pointing out, like, the amount of players out there this year who, hardly anyone. There were so few names that I knew. I had to really study the list. There were so many sort of people I didn't know much about, and they're all making names for themselves. Like we're getting new heroes really quickly, which is just extraordinary. Well, so much of our list is out, and seeing this performance, I thought I heard someone beating a dog. I wasn't sure. Someone's yelling at the dog. It doesn't matter.
It's not me.
Anyway,
it's not me.
Maybe it's Rossi Lyon. It's Rossi Lyon yelling at the boys. Do you think Rossi Lyon's actually nicer now? I know he's kind of spoken about it. Do you think he's like, because I know that I remember sorry to interrupt. I remember being told by when he was with the Swans, because I knew a few of the Swans guys, and they said that Ross Lyon, I think Long said it as well, was that when he was a player, he had actual bloodlust. He was really bloodthirsty on the ground. And then as a coach, he sort of had white line fever a bit as well. I think that's calmed down a bit, though.
Yeah, I think he's mellowed a little bit, but I think that fear is still sort of instilled in the players, the knowing that, if they're not performing, they're not playing, and basically that's kind of how I think they've also lifted.
Well, they're not getting the smile from Ross, But I remember, like, favourite teachers of mine were the ones that they didn't need to yell; they'd just go quiet, and you knew not to push them. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I imagine Ross Lyon is one of those teachers who they don't raise their voice, but when
I feel like he's got a blowtorch in him. I feel like he can tear some strips off the wall. But it's but he does in public. His persona certainly seems more cuddly and softer and happier and all that type of stuff. But you wonder. I mean, the club had the content leak from the coach's box in the practice game at Moorabbin, and the fact that was such an issue, like it made headlines, it made news, makes you wonder that he must have, not necessarily said anything wrong, but there must have been some fervor to what he was trying to say.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But also, like, I mean, you got to remember it is Melbourne, so like anything's going to make headlines, especially a leaked any coach's box. You want to hear it. Do you know what I mean? You want to hear anything. I remember sitting in a coach's box once with Kevin Sheedy when he was coaching GWS. And what was amazing, because he had all his team around him, was he was just sort of like a super high-end barracker. Like, he was just barracking for them. He wasn't kind of going, move him here, or, you know what I mean? He wasn't doing any tactical anything. He's just going, come on, Joey, and come on, so on. And he was like that for the whole game. And I was just like, coaching's a funny gig, because he's such a legendary coach. And he was barracking. That was it. Good on him.
Well, Rhys, I want to thank you for jumping on board this week. We've been lucky enough as a footy club to have a host of actors, singers, musicians, talented people as fans of this football club, and great to have you join those ranks and be a part of the club and now be a part of the show. So, mate, thank you for spending some time with us. For now,
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Phil.
Rhys Muldoon there. Great to chat with another fervent St Kilda supporter. I think is probably a good way to put it. I think Rhys is fervent in just about everything he does. But we move to round 4 in the Gold Coast at Marvel on Saturday night, 7:25 p.m. The Suns had an indifferent start to the season, but a pretty impressive win last week. They sit at 1-2. They're 15th on the ladder. H, how did you see the Suns' upset win over the Cats?
Just caught a little bit of it. I put it down to a bit of, I think Geelong are really not there at the moment. That worked on their side, being up there, and they had the big 200 for Swallow as well to work with, and I think everything just sort of fell in place for them on the day. Had it been down in Geelong, you sort of think, oh look, you'd think they'd probably snatch that one, but being up there, the Geelong really aren't a shadow of themselves from last season at the moment. So the Suns got them at a good time. I've got to say that much. So it's their first win. Before that, you sort of looked at the Suns and thought, oh yeah, there's not all that much at the moment. It's kind of hard to, I guess, work out where exactly they are. But yeah, I mean, they similar, I guess, sort of game plan in the way of they play on a lot of pressure. So they run and they put a lot of pressure on the ball. They put a lot of pressure on the player with the ball, and it's probably it's going to be basically come down to which team can do that better on the day, because it's almost going to be a who can outrun the other at the end of the day, this game. So it's one we're going to test us, because we haven't, I guess the teams we've played so far haven't been in that same sort of mould. So it's going to be a bit of a test just to see whether we can match up a team who does pretty much the same sort of thing. But I think down here at our home ground, the form we're running at the moment, I'd say it's one we should win. But they could surprise us. We don't know. But basically, we put in the work that we have in the first 3 weeks, and we're going to be pretty hard to beat. They've
got a lot of talent. I mean, they've got one of the best ruckmen in the league in Jared Witts. Their midfield is pretty stacked. I mean, Tuke Miller, Matt Rowell, Noah Anderson, Jed Anderson, David Swallow. These guys, they're all really good players. Jack Lukosius could be anything in this competition. Obviously, Ben King coming back from injury, but he's got some rust to shake off. But there's plenty of talent in this Suns team. They're going to be a challenge, and we haven't started a season 4 and zip since 2010 for very obvious reasons. We know what happened after 2010 and all those sorts of things. In fact, I saw on Twitter this week that St Kilda have only been 3 and zip to start a season 9 times in history, and Ross Lyon has been the coach for 3 of those, which is pretty phenomenal. But Phil, massive opportunity to go 4 and zip. How do you see? I mean, what are you expecting to see from us this weekend?
Well, I think we see what we have in the first 3 games, that pressure and effort. I think that the talent that Gold Coast, for me, they're an enigma, and as a club, they keep getting better and better. And it's not a surprise that with Stuart Dew, they've stuck with him, because for a lot of the last 2 or 3, even 4 years, they were very young kids, almost exactly what Hawthorn's done, where Hawthorn got rid of a lot of their older, more established players, brought in the kids. So we're going to have some really tough times, but we're going to get through it. If you've got a forward line of Lukosius, King and Casbolt, that's some tall timber. And then that midfield that you just spoke about with Anderson, Rowell, and also Tuke Miller, right? That's a midfield that anybody would love to have playing for them in their team. Add Jared Witts to that, right? But at the same time, right, our midfield has been doing it with the best as well. I mean, we came up against the Dockies, where you had McRae and Bontempelli, and you had Tim English, of course. That's also an A-grade midfield. So it just shows that the competition is so hard and so even. And if you don't bring your effort, if you're 5% off your game, then you're going to get found out. And what's really impressed me more than anything is the way that Ross has got the team playing from the bounce. It was one thing that drove us crazy about last year, that St Kilda would give away early leads nearly every single game. And then we would come back, and we used to joke that we weren't really in the game until we were like 3 or 4 goals down. But at the moment, Ross has the team going from the first moment that ball is bounced, and that's pretty exciting as a fan. So what do I expect? Maximum effort, maximum pressure, and let the result sort of be what comes as may.
H, obviously Mason Wood and the shoulder is a concern. It seems like it's not as bad as we perhaps thought on Saturday night. He looked pretty sprightly out on the track today. He seemed like he had pretty much full range of movement with that arm, which is pleasing, but he might still miss the week. Obviously, we know that we're going to miss Jimmy Webster for a month and a bit, probably, maybe a bit more with that cheekbone. But what changes are you looking at for this week?
It's going to be probably pretty short of changes looking through it. There's no point changing much up. We haven't really got anyone coming back this week. I mean, there's not much point, I guess, also changing anything, because there's it's a lineup that's working at the moment. It's working for Ross. It's the team that's in there is doing everything they've been asked to do at the moment. And I guess you got Webster out. I guess Patton just steps onto the field. And then you got the question of, out of the VFL, who do you sort of look at? I mean, is Big Max a chance? Not King, but is the other Big Max a chance? He's kicked 5. I was kind of surprised by the VFL team, to be honest, when you see what happened last week. And then, I mean, we lost by whatever it was. Essendon won by 80 points. We lost by 80 points. And then we turned around this week and we knocked them off by almost 40 points. It was a team that doesn't have really any, many senior players in there at all. So it's the players that we did have in the list in that team all seem to contribute and play very good football. So they're pushing, but at the moment there doesn't seem to be much reason to be switching up anything that we're really doing. And we've probably got the team was probably right for who we've got coming up against this week. So there's not apart from unless Wood doesn't make it.
Well, that's the question. I think you're right that Patton probably steps into Webster's role, like for like. If Wood does miss, I mean, who do you guys think is likely? Obviously, Bytel had a ripper game for Sandy on the weekend. He had 35 touches, 2 goals. Then he had 7 tackles or something as well. Obviously, there's the likes of Cooper Sharman, who can could play that high half forward type role. But does he have the tank to be a wingman? I don't know. There's not really any evidence of that. Tom Highmore, does he come in down back and push someone like Patton up to the wing, or Leo Connolly? I mean, if Wood does miss, what are our options here, Phil?
I think Ben Patton starts. I think Ben Patton takes that role on the wing. And I think that you probably look to have Jack Bytel come in as the emergency / fifth sub. I'd love to see Leo Connolly get a gong in that kind of role as well, but I think he needs to do a little bit more down at the Zebs first. And I think that Jack Bytel's weekend was outstanding. 35 touches and 2 goals, I think it was. And so he's earned that right.
Some listener questions here. I've just got a question from Dylan. Thoughts on Stocker's first 3 games, H?
Fantastic. He's come in and done what he's been asked to do, it seems. As I was saying, another freebie. And he's stepped in. There's a few questions early on about him saying, is he a standard or not? But he's shown us he can play the game. And he did some brilliant things on Saturday night. Broke the lines a few times, a few nice intercept marks, hard ball gets. He sort of just did everything that would have been asked of him. So yeah, he'll be an unlucky one if he finds himself falling out of the team at any stage. But I reckon he's probably a really good chance to hold on, to be honest.
Phil, one from Shay. Should King and Membry come straight in or via Sandy? What do you think?
It depends when they come in. It depends what our form's like. And it depends on who's playing well. So, if we're all doing pretty well, then you've got the luxury of getting them to a point where they can get a little bit of conditioning at Sandy. The flip side of that coin, of course, is do you really put your Rolls Royce into a farm paddock, or do you put it onto the road? So, don't want to argue against myself, but maybe Max King comes straight in. But again, if we're winning and we're winning well, and Caminiti is kicking 2 or 3 goals but presenting and the ball's dropping and the forwards are crumbing it, Butler and Higgins and the others are doing their job, again, it will be a great position for us to be in. But what I can say is that Shay and I will have this discussion together on Saturday night. Being part of the IL35 crew.
Couple of injury related questions. Dave asks when do we actually get any relief, and Cam asks what is actually going on with DMAC. Both good questions. I mean, it seems like that injury list we're not going to get much relief for at least another couple of weeks. DMAC's one of those guys who has just been so unlucky. That calf and the concussions that he had last year, I should say. And I spoke to DMAC at the Moorabbin practice game against Essendon earlier in the year, and he was quite open, saying that he's had a shithouse preseason. That was his words. I've had a shithouse preseason. I've just continued to get injured, continual niggles, and I've just got to get myself right. And so we feel for him because we know how important he is to this team, and what a great job he did for us last year. But with things like concussion and some of those soft tissue injuries that keep happening, sometimes you've got to take that extra time and just get it right. The Sad Sainter on Twitter asks, does Mason Wood's statue come in bronze or solid gold?
Be wood, wouldn't it? It'd be a carving.
Very good.
It'd be very chiseled carving.
Phil, another one from Shay, actually. Do you think Ross got Nazaya over the line, or was it something else?
Don't care what it was. Don't care who it was. Just keep on doing it. And, that was pretty exciting to see that news this afternoon, to see him sign on for a further 2 years at the end of this season. And I think winning's, a great tonic for the young guys. And if I heard somebody talk about this on radio earlier today, actually. We actually have a relatively young list that we're building, and the core of it are all under 25. So I think that there's a lot to be excited by. And those kids coming through, there's a lot of sort of 96 about this list, in my view, where the benefit is coming from the younger players. The older players are continuing their performance, but that's where the uplift's coming from. So I'm starting to see a lot of 96 and 97 in this team. And if they do as well as that team did, well, they'll give themselves the best shot in a grand final.
Yeah, I was talking about this with a colleague at work actually a few days ago, and we kind of had a similar conversation, although I think we landed on kind of that 01-02 Saints under Grant Thomas type thing, where it was those young kids coming through, super exciting, a lot of talent, not quite there yet, but so much talent and showing a lot of promise. But it was the older guys that steadying the ship and just kept things ticking along. And it is exciting. It is exciting. I mean, we talk about the injury list, but there is another big list at the club, which is a list of unsigned players that are unsigned for next season. Obviously, Nazaya Wanganeen-Miller is now off that list, but some experienced guys, obviously Tommy Campbell, not in the team at the moment, hasn't played a lot of footy with us, but has been around the traps for a long time. Hunter Clark, Jade Gresham, Jack Higgins, Zach Jones, Dan McKenzie, Seb Ross, Liam Stocker's out of contract, Jimmy Webster and Mason Wood, and then some younger kids, Oscar Adams, Ronnie Burns, Jack Bytel, Caminiti, Leo Connolly, Tom Highmore, Jack Peris. I mean, there's a lot of names on this list. You know, who should we be looking at ensuring that we keep on the list for another year?
I think you got to try to sign as many as you can. It's the list we've got there at the moment is happy. It's they're all buying into what Ross is basically selling to them at the moment, and unless they're not wanting to be part of that, wanting to or understanding, I guess, the where Ross wants to get to, then that's when they're going to be on the outside. But otherwise, I mean, you'd be basically trying to tick that list off and get as many as you can. We obviously will and always do see a few at each season. And I think Ross is probably going to have a bit more say in that sort of situation. I think he's going to be putting a few ticks and crosses next to a few names as the season goes on. And then they'll become obvious as we see which names get ticked off as to being signed. And we'll sort of be one that all see, okay, maybe that player isn't really part of the plan for the future, or so it's going to be a lot of input from him, I think.
Last one for both of you. One from Boba Khan on Twitter has asked about the collar. I love the collar. I'd love to see us play in a collar every week. Phil, what did you make of the collar? Would you see it week in, week out?
I'd like to see the collar on special occasions. I think the crest jumper as our away jumper is fantastic, and I think we pull the collar jumper out once a year to be determined, and also in finals.
H?
Yeah. The only difference I thought this year we might have considered is possibly wearing that jumper almost all season, and then for the 150th wearing something that was like what we wore in the first match in our actual first game, or what we were wearing 150 years ago, which, as you spoke when you were speaking to the club about the website, was very different to what we have had at any other time. So just incorporating that at some stage as something different. So, I mean, I think we may have had a little bit of a hint there could be something else coming up later this year at some stage.
I was going to mention that no one seems to have picked up on it really, but H, I think you'd be pretty excited. It's one of your favourites. Maybe a little bit a hint of yellow coming back later in the year. Possibly,
yeah. It could be something else happening. I just got a little snippet of something, like, well, not actually saw anything or heard anything properly, but it just seems to be a hint of something like that may be happening. Just another throwback to another part of our history. So yeah, we'll see what comes of it. Not 100% certain when it might happen. I'm not sure if there's any particular round that they might look at it happening. Because the the first week of May is the anniversary of the start of the VFL, but any other sort of dates throughout the year, I can't sort of pin anything else as to who it could wear or what it could be.
Yeah, an interesting one. It will be interesting. I thought it was really, really interesting that that Chris let that slip a couple of weeks ago on the show, and looking forward to seeing what they've got planned, because it does seem to be, for whatever reason, kind of everybody's favourite weird jersey jumper moment in the club's history. So it's looking forward to seeing that one. But some awards to finish off the show. We'll start with the Shannon Knoll Award. H, who has to lift?
I mean, he got a good mention, and I think he actually got a vote from Phil. But I've got to get on Gresham. I've got to jump on him. I'm not saying that he's had a bad game, but he could give us so much more. He could give us so much more than what he does. He gets enough of the ball. He gets to the right positions. It's just that last kick. He's just got to get that last kick right. He could have hit 5 more targets on the weekend, and the game could have been over at halftime. I mean, from the night we had, that's basically the only thing I sort of pick out and go, let's get that right. It's at the end of the day, it's the only blight on his game. It's the only thing that we sort of can look at his game and go, that's where you can improve. But it's the only thing that was really, I guess, frustrating me on the night. It was just that last kick. So
I agree. I agree completely. He was the one name I had penciled down on my list as someone who needs to improve and has that really obvious improvement level. I think, and I'm not even necessarily sure that it's his disposal ability. I think it's his decision making and just his lack of thought. Like, he doesn't take the extra half a second to take that extra thought and look up or lower the eyes and see what options there are. His first thought is win the ball, kick it long. And that's about it. He blazes away without looking around, and he's got so much talent. And really could be a very, very good player in the competition. And he runs the risk of just kind of going through the motions and being an average player that sticks in the league for 6, 7, 8 years and doesn't really make a difference. But he's got the ability to be a difference maker, an impact player, and just not seeing at the moment. Phil, I can see you shaking your head, but what's you have thoughts on Gresham? I mean, you gave Gresham a vote in your votes for last week, but who have you got the Shannon Knoll Award?
Well, I just want both of you to go back and watch the game, because I think you'll find that if you actually just watch for Gresh, you'll see that he was far more involved than that. But anyway, look, you're welcome to your opinions. That's why they're yours.
Nothing to do with involvement. It's just
That's
that
right.
last kick. It's just he could give us if that kick into the 50 hits targets.
Look, H,
that's
if you
where
were prepared. If you were prepared to say that he needs to shave off his porn moustache, I'm with you 100%. But I just think that his work on the field was pretty good. Anyway, as I said, you're entitled to your opinion. I was going to be a little bit cheeky, and I was going to suggest that Mason Wood needs to lift, that he was going to have to get the Shannon Knoll Award so that we actually see him on the ground Saturday night. But I'm not. I'm going to stay away, even though I've kind of just said that. I'm going to stay away from throwing Mason Wood under the bus. And I'm going to say that we need Zane Cordy to lift. I think Zane Cordy needs to play up in defence this week, given the tall timber that the Gold Coast will have. Because do not underestimate Casbolt. I'm telling you now, if we focus on Lukosius and or Ben King, and we don't have somebody that can muscle and body up with Casbolt, he will end up with 4 or 5 goals himself. So I'd like to see Zane Cordy lift, and we'll give him the Shannon Knoll Award. But again, if my prediction is right, H has just managed to identify the player that's going to come out and be BOG this week. So
he'll have 100% kicking efficiency this week.
I tell you what, if I was somebody at the club, and clearly the club are great friends of the program, given the access that they've given the boys recently. Ross Lyon may actually get your phone number, H, and he might secretly start telling you who it is that he wants to see lift, because you have the Midas touch at the moment. And I'll look forward to seeing on the night whether or not Gresh comes out firing, having been slayed by you.
Get on it. We want to see that same game multi, 30 touches and 3 goals from Jade Gresham. The Jason Blake Award, something that we all look forward to every week. Phil, who have you got to start with?
Well, I was going to also be cheeky and give it to Mason Wood because I thought if he could get the Shannon Noll Award, we can give him the Jason Blake Award. But I think he's
you've nearly given us a historic double of someone getting the Shannon Noll and the Jason Blake Award.
Well, I've given you
neither.
I've given you the historic nearly double. There you go. So he has well and truly come out of the shadows. The fact that he got maximum votes by both coaches indicates that. So I am going to give it, surprisingly, I'm going to give it to Marshall. I think that he has competed strongly, but no one has come out and said that he's shouldered the ruckload all of his own and he's made a big difference to the team. I think he has. And so I think he's just quietly going about his business. And I think that the Jason Blake Award for last week goes to him because I think we have named between us 10 players that could have got votes and not one of us mentioned Marshall. And he was a big reason for our dominance through the centre. So I'm going to give it to the big fella.
I've gone in a similar vein. I wanted to give an honourable mention to Liam Stocker. I think that he's been fantastic since he came here. I think that his body work, his leadership down back as well, his elite kicking skills and his disposal ability is very good. I've been very impressed with Liam Stocker, but in this regard, I wanted to give this award to Brad Crouch. He's another one who I think just goes about his business and just gets shit done week after week after week. He very rarely has a bad game. He doesn't stand out, but you'll get to halfway through the last quarter and you'll see Brad Crouch has had 30 touches. And he doesn't do the flashy things. He doesn't get the attention. He doesn't get the plaudits. But I think that he just does his job week in, week out. H, what have you got?
Without putting the mods on him, because he needs a good run. But Hunter Clark, he has started the year very well, but he hasn't been in many I guess comments about how good the team's going, that sort of stuff. He sort of just slipped back into the team again. We're starting to see what he was doing before he got injured all these times, and it just needs this great run. He can keep building week after week after week, and I think we'll hopefully start to see again the ability that he has and the time. He just has so much time when he gets the ball to look and work out what he's doing, and he hits the targets. He gets to the right positions. He makes the right decisions. It's just the work he's putting in, and let's just hope he gets the run at this time, because another setback and you just go, it's just so unfortunate that we haven't seen him at the top of his game yet, because we know how high he could go if he keeps going.
I think we can all agree on that. We'd love to see Hunter Clark reach his potential, because he is a very good footballer when he's up and running. But it's been a phenomenal start to the year for the Saints. Obviously 3-0, aiming for 4 in a row to start the year. Get around to Marvel Stadium on Saturday night, 7:25 against the Suns. Hopefully we're back next week celebrating another win. Thanks, lads, for jumping in. Phil, for taking over Parko and his seat this week. Not sure who we'll have in his seat next week, but thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon. Go Saints.